Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Jayden Bryce Show. I hope you all are having a great day, and I got a very exciting show lined up for you guys. But before we get into all that, make sure to subscribe, like my podcast, look up my podcast, and share my podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Today, I got a lot of great topics to talk about. It is an action-packed show. I mean, a heavy show. We're going to discuss the Broncos and Raiders game last night. That was absolutely abysmal on all fronts. Then we're going to discuss Kyler Murray going on IR, and we're going to preview some of the games of Week 10. And, of course, I'm going to end my show off talking about my Week 10 picks of the week that I did not get to discuss roughly last week. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's show. Broncos Raiders on Thursday Night Football. If I had to sum up this game, I would sum it up as absolute hot garbage. This game was absolutely terrible. I mean, there's from entertainment value, not being able to properly consume primetime games because of the ESPN discourse on Monday Night Football. And just this was terrible. Bo Nix and the Broncos, we know the story of them all season. My takeaway from this game was, are the Broncos threats in the AFC? My answer to that is no. I don't foresee Denver going on a deep playoff run. Because Bo Nix and the Broncos really remind me of the AFC version of the Green Bay Packers. Bo Nix and Jordan Love are two young quarterbacks who both have a ceiling of being able to compete at the highest level and potentially win a Super Bowl because everything around them is great. You have a phenomenal defense. You have talent at the wide receiver position. Got a pretty decent run game. And you got a good head coach. Great management. You're number one in your division. All of these things. But the primary difference, though, between the Broncos and the Packers is the Broncos in their division have a team in the Kansas City Chiefs who have been to 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls and won 3 of them. You have that going on in your own division. They have a championship defense. There is no question about that. But the question right now, when it comes to the Broncos, is the offense's consistency. We saw it last night on display with Bo Nix. Did you guys know that the Broncos had more penalties than first downs last night as a team? That's absolutely wild stat. Overall first downs, both the Raiders and the Broncos had 10. But the Broncos had 11 penalties for 78 yards. The Broncos, and this is credit to Geno Smith and the offense, they started the first half with majority of their drives being inside the 10-yard line, on their own 10-yard line. And they couldn't move the ball at the field. They kept giving up the Raiders great field position. If it wasn't for the Raiders being absolutely non-existent on offense, this game could have got ugly if it was any other opponent on the other side of the line of scrimmage facing off against the Denver Broncos offense. Because they were bad yesterday. Bo Nix was 16 for 28, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 27, and a passer rating of 54. They were somewhat able to run the ball. But Bo Nix, he was not on time. Throws were late. Wasn't really accurate in some situations. Wasn't reading the field well. Sean Payton didn't do a great job calling plays. At one point in the second half, Sean Payton was trying to get cute. And it was 3rd and 1. All you had to do was just run the ball and get a first down. He decides to run this wide receiver screen that was supposed to turn into a pass. Cortland Sutton at some point was supposed to pass the ball. That play was absolutely abysmal. But of course, the defense showed up yesterday. They were able to get to Geno Smith. Geno Smith eventually was hurt during the game, and they were able to wreak havoc. And that is what ideally the Denver Broncos are going to do. Their identity right now, which I don't like their identity and the identity that they're trying to have, their identity is we are going to play good defense, play inconsistent offense, and turn up in the fourth quarter. But sadly, yesterday, the Broncos were not able to turn up in the fourth quarter. They played very mediocre football from the first quarter all the way to the end of the game. And again, if it wasn't for the Raiders being so anemic on offense, if it was any other team, the Broncos, this would have been absolutely embarrassing. And in the end, I cannot trust Bo Nix. I want to believe in him. In the same case with Jordan Love, I believe that one day Bo Nix and Sean Payton together will be in an AFC Championship game. They're 8-2 right now. They're in an argument for the number one seed right now in the AFC playoff picture. But going into the playoffs, it's about consistency. It's about complementary football. The Denver Broncos are not playing that. They're playing okay special teams, and that's another aspect that was terrible last night as well. That punter was absolutely awful. Awful. He couldn't even punt the ball good last night. He shanked like 3 in a row. We had that. You play great defense. But offensively, you could not move the football up the field. You had more penalties than first downs as an offense. Not saying they had 11 offensive penalties, but just penalties in general. You had more penalties than you had offensive first downs. That is a recipe for a disaster, and that is the reason why, me personally, I do not foresee the Denver Broncos making a super deep playoff run. Now, let's move to the other side of the spectrum. Let's talk about the Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders are just bad. They're not a good ball club. I feel bad for Pete Carroll. You know, it's been a pretty rough year. A lot of highs and lows. You traded for Geno Smith thinking that he was going to capture some of the same energy that he had in Seattle. That does not seem to be the case. Geno Smith's been pretty bad this year. I think going into last night, he was tied with interceptions going into that game. He's top 3 in thrown interceptions and just turning the ball over. They lost a heartbreaker last week to the Jaguars. You know, Pete Carroll made the aggressive move going for a 2-point conversion instead of wanting to tie the game. I respect it. And it didn't end up going their way. But they're just bad. Defensively, they played their butts off. I mean, the defense single-handedly were the only reason why the Las Vegas Raiders, were even had a chance in this game. Because even in the fourth quarter, we know how streaky that the Broncos can be in the fourth quarter offensively, but the Raiders still shut that down. And they had a pretty phenomenal day. Geno Smith, 16 for 26, 143 yards, 1 interception, which was not his fault. Genty, the ball popped off his hands up in the air, and that was an interception. But they got no production. Tyler Lockett only caught 5 balls. Brock Bowers caught 1 pass for 31 yards. Trey Tucker caught 2 balls. Ashton Genty, he was able to run the football decently. He got a touchdown, averaged 3.2 yards a carry. Not the best, but it's okay. But the offense continues to be underwhelming. Geno Smith, again, was playing hurt last night, so you can't 100% blame it on Geno last night. It's just there were a lot of miscues. The Raiders had a lot of penalties that negated some big plays. There were a couple, I think there was like 3 big plays that the Raiders had that got called back because of holding penalties. That's the definition of a bad football team. You can't score. You can't run the football. You got one side of the ball is good that night. But guess what? You get penalties. Can't get first downs, can't score, can't play good special teams. They missed a field goal last night, and that is a recipe for a bad ball team. Overall, last night was pretty abysmal across all fronts. And what I took away from that game is that the Raiders are bad, and they got a lot to fix going in next year. Hopefully they can get some free agents and things of that nature. But again, I don't foresee the Denver Broncos, unless they do some type of drastic change on offense. I do not foresee this team, the Denver Broncos, having a deep playoff run. The next topic we are going to get to. I'm going to be 100% transparent. I did not, and I'm being 100% transparent. I didn't foresee myself talking about this topic. But I felt like I had to, and I felt like it was a service for my fans because I am a fan of this team. If you guys were not aware, and if you were living under a rock, we know yesterday, tragically, a member of the Dallas Cowboys, Mr. Marshawn Kneeland, defensive end for the Dallas Cowboys, tragically passed away yesterday. I kind of wanted to talk about this because of the impact that it had on me. I'm an avid Cowboys fan. I keep up with Cowboys Twitter when it comes to DLLS Cowboys. Everybody involved, Rich Lombardi, Jeff, Clarence Hill, all these Cowboys beat writers, reporters, anybody associated with the Dallas Cowboys. I see their tweets on a daily basis. And I saw that a lot of them in the media were sharing a post from this guy. This was roughly at 8 a.m. in the morning, Eastern time. And they were sharing this post from this guy he had like 2,000 followers. He had his own media company and he followed boxing, but he looked like he was an avid Cowboys fan. And he had posted that Marshawn Kneeland had passed away. And I was distraught. Obviously, I'm media trained. I know that false information can be provided. So, I was worried for a minute because, everybody in Cowboys media they were running with this story and they were saying, I hope it weren't true. So I kept refreshing my Twitter page and, kept refreshing and nothing ever happened. Well, I go to school on Thursdays, so I have class roughly at 11 o'clock. So I got up, I got ready to go. I took me a shower to get ready for school and get me a little breakfast in. And I looked to see if ESPN or anybody had posted anything, but I saw nothing. And I was making me some toast, and as soon as I put my toast in the toaster, ESPN, I got a notification from my ESPN on my phone saying that Marshawn Kneeland had passed away. At first, it was a tough blow. I don't know Marshawn personally, obviously. He don't know who I am. He never knew who I was. Nobody on the Cowboys media team, anybody associated with Dallas, they don't know who I am. But I have an emotional attachment to this team. It was hard for me not to be affected by it to a certain extent because I follow this team, I follow these players, and Marshawn Kneeland was a guy he was a second overall pick for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, you're a second overall pick for a team, and I'm gonna talk about this from the football aspect because again, I don't know the guy personally, but just from you're a second round pick. They just traded away Micah Parsons, and they're looking and thinking the Cowboys had the mindset thinking, this guy is the future. He had a good year last year. He had a knee injury towards the end of the season that derailed him. He was never 100% healthy at any point this year. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, we're talking about a guy in Marshawn Kneeland who he just scored a touchdown on Monday. And roughly 48, 60 hours later, he takes his own life. And you know, and the reason why I was scared when I first saw the news, when they had posted it, they said he just passed away, and they will reveal the details later. And I didn't want to be negative, but that's where my first sign pointed to. I said this might be suicide. And then when I found out, you know, before when the first media release came out roughly at 12 o'clock from the Frisco Police Department, and just the details about, you know, he's had mental issues. He lost his mom in the draft. I didn't know that. That's information that I just found out yesterday. And he's been affected by it ever since. He had a girlfriend. He's leaving behind a girlfriend that's pregnant currently. And it sounded like he had a loving family. They said he texted his family goodbye. His girlfriend said that, you know, he was willing to take his life to the police department. That's what she said. It's sad. This was a guy who he always had a smile on his face. I saw Wanye Thomas posting on Twitter, talking about, you know, everybody's saying that this should encourage the Cowboys defense to play better next week coming off the bye. And he was like, you know, it's more than football. We're talking about these players lost a guy in the locker room. As Jeff and them and Clarence were saying on the podcast yesterday, that's an empty seat in the players' meetings, in the team meetings. That's an empty seat on the airplane, on the team plane. That's an empty locker in the locker room. And I know those defensive players and everybody on the team had a special connection with this guy. He was hard not to like. He had a bright future. He was a great player. He had an interesting story. I even went back yesterday and read up on more of his story, and, you know, the things that he went through, and, you know, coming from where he come from to being drafted in the NFL, and, you know, just losing his mom in the process. I mean, it was tough. And you just never know. And, you know, the tough thing that I thought about too as well, when I was thinking about it, he had his own teammates. I mean, he had Solomon Thomas, who he has stuff going on with mental health issues, and even Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's got his own mental health company and foundation with Fight Finish and Ask for Help. He wears it on his wristbands during the game. And you know, Dak's lost his mom to cancer. His brother, you know, he took his own life during COVID, and, you know, Dak's been through this. And I got to give Dan Orlowski credit for this too. I mean, you know, as a man, we can be going through stuff, and we just don't want to tell anybody. I know the feeling. I'm not going to go into detail, but I know what it feels like to have stuff weighing on your shoulders, and you just don't want to tell anybody that you were going through something. You're just telling everybody, you're putting on a smile and just saying it's okay. I'm okay. And that was what Marshawn was doing. And he had stuff that affected him. And tragically, he done what he did. It was the Cowboys bye week. At first, when I heard the news, I was like, you know, did he get in an accident on vacation or anything of that nature. He was still in Dallas. He wasn't going anywhere. There were coaches or people that he had relationships with. They were saying that they were getting ready to go meet him and be with him during his bye week and go see him. And now they don't get to do that. And when I read the police report about him committing a traffic violation, the story didn't really make sense. And then I was hearing Clarence Hill, and I was like, I do think he planned this. I think they're reportedly saying that he was going 150 miles per hour on the highway. That's what Clarence Hill said. So, it's a tough situation. They interviewed Dak Prescott yesterday in his comments. Dak looked strong, but I could tell Dak was wanting to cry. And I'm kind of tearing up now talking about it. I was tearing up a little bit, making the graphic for it, and just planning the show, and I was writing it, and I was like, man, I don't want to talk about this, but I wanted to talk about it because he was a player for the Dallas Cowboys, and it's just a sad situation. This kid had a bright future, and we don't get to foresee him do it on the football field anymore. I know it's even tougher now for the fellas, for the Cowboys. They're not working. They're on a bye week, so I know what it feels like to not have your mind occupied. And I know Dak and CD and just everybody on the roster, they're just with their families and wherever they're at, and they're just having to think about it because they're not going to be back to the team facility till roughly next Tuesday. I think that's when they announced that they were going to be back at practice. So it's tough. I send my best regards to the family, the girlfriend, anybody that was in relation to Marshawn, and it's a sad situation. There's no other way around it, and it's something that hit me hard. I wanted to believe it wasn't real. I really didn't. Then the Cowboys said what they said. They released a statement, and it happened. I'm trying my best not to, there's some stuff I want to say, but I'm not going to say. I'm going to just keep it at that. My condolences to the family, everybody that is affected by this. May God let y'all find peace in the loss of a loved one. It's a sad situation, and anybody who is going throughout life with problems, and it's okay to ask for help. There are people in this world who love you, and I know Marshawn probably didn't know this, but when he done what he did, there are plenty of people who, that loved him and would love to see him today. And just always think about that. When you're gone, there's going to be people in this earth that's going to miss you and love you and wish you were still here. And I know Marshawn's girlfriend and all his family members wished he was here today. So yeah, I'm starting to cry a little bit myself. It's a tough situation. It really is. He was a great kid. Yeah. Had a smile on his face all the time, and it's that situation. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say. I said that like 3 minutes ago, but it's just it sucks. hopefully everybody in Dallas, all his teammates can find peace, and the NFL and everyone can come together and just be able to remember him, and for all the great things he done. And Marshawn Kneeland passing away at age 24. And the future, had a bright future. The Cowboys believed in him, and he tragically passed away at 24 years old. All right. Just wanted to give my condolences in that situation. I just felt like I needed to talk about it because of him playing for the Dallas Cowboys. So that's the reason why I wanted to discuss that topic. So now, let's move on to some other topics that I have lined up. So, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray went on injured reserve Wednesday. I got a notification going to work on Wednesday, and I was kind of shocked because of your franchise quarterback. You've paid this guy all this money, and going into Monday Night Football on Monday, Kyler Murray was supposed to be available to play. He was, like, roughly 3 hours before the game, people were saying he was going to be active. He wasn't going to start, but he was active just in case for some gadget plays and things of that nature. And then, roughly when the inactives come out, Kyler Murray was inactive. And that was always fishy to me. How are you going to say that he was available, potentially, on Monday night against the Cowboys, then he is inactive, and all of a sudden, he goes on IR? Is Kyler's time in Arizona done? I think so. But most importantly, I think, just me personally, I think Kyler Murray has been a disappointment. And when I was writing the show, I sat and thought about who Kyler Murray really reminds me of. And I can say that two quarterbacks came to mind: Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Two quarterbacks that, for the team that they were drafted for, they were never able to reach the height and ability that was placed and bestowed upon him when he was drafted. We're talking about a guy in Kyler Murray who, the most winningest quarterback in Texas. He was phenomenal in college. If I'm not mistaken, Kyler Murray is a Heisman Trophy winner, if I remember correctly. But I want to look it up to make sure he's won a Heisman Trophy. Yeah, he did win the Heisman. I thought so. So we got talking about a guy who won the Heisman. And when he was drafted with the number 1 overall pick in Arizona, he was projected to be the next best thing. And it has not turned out to be that way. I think that Kyler Murray needs a change of scenery. Now, and when we think about, the conversations with Jonathan Gannon, and, Kyler Murray was originally drafted under Cliff Kingsbury, and Cliff Kingsbury is no longer there. And how I haven't watched the Cardinals like really tight and really close, but a lot of people have been claiming that Jacoby Brissett has played better at the quarterback position in comparison to Kyler Murray. Like, way better. The offense has been better. There have been more production, things of that nature. That's what they've been saying. Statistically, and I can say statistically, that did not match up to me. They're scoring around almost the same amount of points on offense. Kyler Murray's completion percentage is higher. He's they've played the same amount of games, 5 games apiece. He's throwing for more yards, but he's throwing for less average yards. They've both thrown six touchdowns, but Kyler Murray has threw 3 interceptions in comparison to Jacoby Brissett's 1. Kyler's took more sacks, 3 more sacks, and Kyler Murray has a passer rating of 88.6, and Jacoby Brissett has a passer rating of 102.5. That is the difference. And then I looked up Marvin Harrison's numbers playing with Kyler Murray in comparison to Jacoby Brissett. There's not a big difference either. I think Marvin Harrison had an extra touchdown reception playing with Kyler. So there wasn't that big of a difference. So maybe the tape is different, is what I'm suggesting. Again, I've not been watching, excuse me. I've not been able to watch the Cardinals play that much. But with Jacoby Brissett, they were competitive against the Green Bay Packers. And that's been the story so far this year about the Arizona Cardinals, that they've been a competitive team, that they've not been able to finish. The only embarrassing loss that they had was the loss against Tennessee, where just everything was an absolute blunder. But it feels like Gannon likes Brissett because of the things that I was talking about the coaching staff feels like they like Brissett more because Brissett's running what they want them to run. And I think Kyler Murray doesn't. And along with Kyler Murray, there's things in the past talking about Kyler Murray and Call of Duty. He's not studying film. I don't know if this is the same situation. I thought those days were past him. Maybe not. There may be more of that going on behind the scenes. I don't know. But Kyler Murray might need to change his scenery because Kyler Murray is too talented. I mean, I think Kyler Murray is. And let me say this: watching Kyler Murray in comparison to Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, in Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, I've never loved Kyler Murray. Yes, he's fantastic with his legs, but just simply throwing the football, I never thought he'd done that better than Baker nor Sam Darnold. Maybe he can change that around because obviously Sam Darnold wasn't a good thrower of the football until we saw him last year with the Vikings. So maybe if Kyler Murray were to get a change of scenery, he may all of a sudden throw a great football. I don't know. But he's on IR. He's going to miss the next 4 games. So he's missing week 10, 11, 12, 13. So he's not going to be available to roughly week 14. That's the last 4 games of the season. So I come up with a couple of destinations for Kyler Murray. And these are the teams that came to my head that I could think of. I had Miami. I had the Jets. I had the Saints. And I had the Falcons. Those are like the teams that I thought would strongly consider getting Kyler Murray. And then the other 3 teams, I was like maybes. The Browns, the Panthers, and the Steelers. I said the Steelers just because if you don't believe Aaron Rodgers is your answer for the future, you got a guy who in Kyler Murray who is still young. He has the intangibles. If he goes to a better organization, maybe he can turn out to be like the Baker Mayfield and the Sam Darnold. You get a better situation, you play better football. That was my thing with the Steelers. The Browns, you may still be invested in Deshaun Watson. You don't want to trade any more assets. You might want to look at Shador. So maybe Kyler Murray's not an option. With the Panthers, I think Bryce Young under Dave Canales can turn into eventually a pretty good quarterback. So that's the reason why I didn't necessarily have the Panthers on my high list. But let's go to these other 4 teams. Miami, you have Tua, Mike McDaniel. That situation's not working out. I think Tua needs to change his scenery as well. I don't think Tua is a good quarterback at all anyways, period. But maybe, the organization can get a change. Kyler Murray needs a change. That was like one of my big ones. The Jets is a good one. I think the Jets, for me, might be my favorite alongside maybe the Falcons. The Jets, fresh start. You got Garrett Wilson. You got Breece Hall. You add Kyler Murray to that type of mix, that can be a pretty good dynamic. The only thing with the Jets is, and you can say the same thing with the Jets and Miami, Historically, bad franchises who do not utilize quarterback play when they have it. Sam Darnold played for the Jets, and now you see what he's been able to do. Aaron Rodgers played with the Jets last year. Now you see how Aaron Rodgers is playing now when he's left the Jets. Just two totally different quarterbacks. So if you want a quarterback to play bad football, go to a New York franchise. And Jackson Dart's putting that rumor, kind of pushed it to the side at the moment, but it's been like that with the Jets. The Saints, you don't even have a quarterback. You got Spencer Rattler. He's not been good. He's been benched for Tyler Shuck. I don't think Tyler Shuck is the answer either. And you need a quarterback. You have a guy in Kellen Moore who is an offensive coordinator who won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. He had plenty of success with the Cowboys and the Chargers as an offensive coordinator. So if you give him a guy like Kyler Murray, you got Chris Olave, you still got Alvin Kamara, you could probably make some noise. And my last team, the Falcons. The Falcons is like the ultimate wish list, I think, for if you're Kyler Murray. Because you have a guy in Michael Penix who doesn't have the same amount of potential, I think, me personally, that Kyler Murray has. Michael Penix, I think, has a ceiling. Because Michael Penix throws a nice football. He throws a very accurate football. And he has a lot of velo on his ball. But this is the same thing with Kyler that plagues Kyler as well. They don't have the attitude or the mentality or the leadership. That's something that Baker has. And I think Sam Darnold has been able to show some of that quality as well. That is something just Kyler Murray and Michael Penix do not strike me as those dudes. They don't strike me that guys who have utmost leadership qualities. So when it comes to the Falcons, that is a dream scenario. Bijan, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, pretty good offensive line, pretty good organization for the most part. They have a good defense and a bright future. That is like the best situation for Kyler Murray. So those were a couple teams that came to my mind. But this Kyler Murray thing is over, I think, and he just needs a new change of scenery, and it would not be shocking to me if Kyler Murray were able to find success once he was able to leave Arizona. All right. Now that we've discussed these topics there, we can go ahead and move on to our previews of the games coming up this week. There's a couple of games I wanted to highlight that I wanted to talk about. Just give me 1 second while I change the graphics for you guys right fast. So there were a couple of games that I want to talk about. And the first game that I'm really, really interested in looking at is the Vikings and the Ravens. I told you last week that I wanted to discuss J.J. McCarthy. It was one of the games in the 1 o'clock window that got really lost because there was great football yesterday in the 1 o'clock window. And J.J. McCarthy was able to go on the road in Detroit after not playing since week 2. You were able to go on the road against the Detroit Lions in Motor City and get a win. That was absolutely huge. And I told y'all roughly earlier in the week that I was going to discuss that game. I never got around to it. But seeing that the Ravens and the Vikings faced off this week, I was like, dude, there's a no-brainer. I have to talk about this game for a preview. So this morning, I went back, looked at the tape, looked at the stats. J.J. McCarthy wasn't great. He had moments. And this is why he interests me. Is this a must-win for the Ravens? I'll discuss that next. That's roughly the next part of the show. But J.J. McCarthy reminds me of Josh Allen. He's not as good as Josh Allen, do not get me wrong. But just the roller coaster aspect. There's plenty of moments where it's like, okay, that's the J.J. McCarthy that we thought that we were going to get with the Vikings. It's the J.J. McCarthy that we saw in the preseason last year before he tore his meniscus and he was out for the rest of the year. That is the J.J. McCarthy that the Vikings put and invested all of that draft capital into. The reason why they got rid of Sam Darnold, and they chose you to be the quarterback. But you get that in spits and spurts. You can't get it for 4 quarters. Can we get good JJ McCarthy for 4 full quarters of consistent football? That is something that I'm going to look forward to in this game. And I say that because you're playing a Ravens team who defensively is not that good. You know, people are saying that they've had a revelation the last couple of weeks. They're getting healthier. Marlon Humphrey and Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, all the guys, they're back. But still, you know, and they just traded for a guy from the Titans, so he's going to be available this week. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays. But still, this Ravens club on defense is not that good. They are in the lower portion of the league in all categories. So if you're JJ McCarthy, this is another opportunity. You were able to go out against the Detroit Lions, who have a pretty good defense. You were able to be pretty relatively successful. Granted, if it wasn't for your defense playing pretty great football yesterday, turning the ball over and things of that nature and getting stops, maybe you could have lost that game. But you were able to muster up 27 points and win the game. That is great for JJ McCarthy and the Vikings. They have the roster. The Vikings have the roster to be successful. JJ McCarthy has all the intangibles at his disposal. Now, I do not love the Vikings O-line at all. It was part of the reason why Carson Wentz got killed back there. But they have the roster. You have Addison. You have Jefferson. You have Aaron Jones coming out of the backfield. You have T.J. Hawkinson. You have all these weapons at your disposal, and you have a phenomenal defense. This is the time to see JJ. Can we get more consistent? Can we play better football? Because it's an indictment against JJ McCarthy that you had an ankle injury. They didn't put you on IR. And yet you missed more than 4 games. And they marched Wentz out there with a tore up labrum, messed up ribs, ankle, knee. Like, Carson Wentz was a walking infirmary. And yet they would have rather walked Carson Wentz out there on the field instead of playing you. That's an indictment against JJ McCarthy. But can JJ McCarthy be consistent? Can he get those nice plays, the nice back shoulder throw to Justin Jefferson in the end zone, the running play into the end zone? Can he carve up some of these plays and bottle it up for 4 straight quarters? That is something that I personally am going to be looking forward to going into this game. Now, let's go from it for the other side of the Ravens, like I told you. Is this game a must-win for Baltimore? I absolutely 100% agree, yes. Because you're the Baltimore Ravens. You are trying to catch up to the Steelers. I think the Bengals are a lost cause. They're absolutely terrible alongside the Browns. So if you are the Baltimore Ravens, you're 3-5. You are trying to muster up wins, climb yourself out of this hole, and make it into the playoffs. This is a big game for that. Because your schedule for the Baltimore Ravens does not get any easier down the road. If you look at Baltimore's schedule, Baltimore still has to play the Steelers. You got to play the Bengals twice. You have to play the Patriots. And you got to play the Packers. That's not an easy schedule. So when you got this game and you have a game against J.J. McCarthy, this is your time, Lamar Jackson, to show up and shine on offense. Defense, can you make a stand? Can you stop J.J. McCarthy? Because if you're the Baltimore Ravens, you have Lamar Jackson, you have Derrick Henry, you have Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. You have all of these weapons at your disposal. Can you be able to play good offense, score points, and defensively get enough stops to come out and win this ballgame? Lamar and the offense need to be efficient because you are facing a Brian Flores-led defense. The key to the game for me would be to run the ball. The Vikings rank 20th in run defense. That is their weakness. The Vikings are good at taking the ball away, and they're good at passing defense. You are the Baltimore Ravens. You have Lamar Jackson, who is stellar at running the football, and you have Derrick Henry. And you have people like Zay Flowers and everybody else who you can give the ball in the backfield. There's no excuse why you should not be able to be efficient against the Vikings defense. Now, that Vikings defense are no slouches. The Detroit Lions, a team who is one of the best rushing attacks in the league, they weren't even able to come up with a win last week against this Vikings defense, and they were at home. You're on the road going to Skull Nation. So the key to win is you got to be able to stop JJ McCarthy from being able to put together efficient football for 4 quarters. And on offense, you got to score. Do not let JJ McCarthy and the Vikings linger around in this game. Because if there's a 10-7 3-point lead, the Vikings have the weapons at their disposal to be able to go in, come back, and win that type of game. You got to put them away. Cannot let them linger around and think they have a chance to win. So that is my key to success when it pertains to the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Because me personally, I think Lamar Jackson and the Ravens can make the playoffs. They have the capability. I don't think they currently right now have it because, and we're going to talk about the Steelers later, I was very surprised at how well defensively that the Steelers were able to play against the Colts. Now, if they can play like that going on the rest of the season, I might have a different argument. But I think offensively, the Ravens are not even in the same. They are out. The Steelers' offense is not even in the same stratosphere as the Ravens. I think that the Ravens' offense is just way better. Defensively, I would rather have the Steelers' defense. But when it comes to playoff time, I think I might trust Lamar and the Ravens to get the job done. And coming near the end of the season, I would rather trust Lamar and the Ravens to gut out and make it into the playoffs instead of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not 100% sold on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I got to see more. Now, this matchup coming up this week, we're going to talk about that later. If the Steelers do a job, I might change my mind. But specifically with Baltimore, right now, I just have a little bit more faith in Baltimore. And I think they have a chance to run the table and get into the playoffs. So it is a must-win for Baltimore. And we'll see in my picks of the week if I pick them to win. But I give them a good shot at winning this game. All right. The next game that we are going to discuss. Now, this is a game that and it sucks. This is another thing. This sucks because all of these games that I'm talking about right now that we're fixing to discuss, all of them are during the 1 o'clock window. And you know me, I don't have 5 gazillion TVs to be able to just sit and watch these games. So I'm going to have to pick and choose what games I want to watch. But the next game that we're going to discuss right now is the Bucs and the Patriots. This is an exciting game for a multitude of reasons. I want to see how legit New England really is. I looked at New England's schedule. This is, maybe outside of the Ravens game, but for the rest of the season, this is going to be the most competitive and best defense that Drake May is going to face all year. This is the hardest team, I think, that Drake May and the Patriots are going to face for the rest of the year. They have the lightest schedule going forward. So if you're Drake May, if you are Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots, you have this opportunity against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to show everybody that you're here. This season is no fluke. And that we can make some noise in the playoffs. Because there's a whole lot of questions going on with the Patriots right now. You know, they're turnover prone. Drake May's been sacked a lot. You got all this going on. You know, they're squeaking by these games. They squeaked by last week against the Falcons after letting Drake London go absolutely crazy on them offensively. But they've been able to win games. But you're on the road going up against a Tampa Bay Buccaneer team led by a guy who at one point was the MVP candidate in the league. You're going up against a defense that is going to be the best that they faced in the Drake May era. Are you really legit? That is a question that America and everybody wants to know going forward, and this is the game to show that. You cannot turn the ball over. Statistically, the Bucs are +7 in defensive in turnover differential. The New England Patriots are at 0. So they turn the ball over on defense just as much as they turn it over on offense. So there's not a lot of efficiency in that department. The Bucs excel at that. They are able to take the ball away, and on offense, they relatively do not turn the ball over. At all. It is rare for Baker and the Buccaneers to turn the ball over. If New England wins, they are absolutely legit. They have a shot to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. Mike Vrabel can go ahead and lock up Coach of the Year. And they have the opportunity to win the division. That is how much this game, in my opinion, is what at stake for the New England Patriots and Drake May in this game. Because if we look at the Patriots' schedule, if they win against the Buccaneers, they play the Jets, they play the Bengals, the Giants, the Jets, and the Dolphins. The only tough games that they're going to have are the Ravens and the Bills. I think presently right now, if they win against the Buccaneers, they will be 8-2. They'll be 8-2. So if they beat the Bucs, that means, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. With 7 games to go, they have the opportunity to be, do the math, if they were hypothetically to lose the next 2 games, they would be 13-4. That is very, very good enough to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. 13-4. And maybe if they do beat the Ravens, they're 14-3. So they have, this game means a lot. This feels, I don't like using the topic must win a lot because I don't want to steal it from Chris Broussard, but I'm going to be totally honest with you. When you think of it in that perspective and all that weighs on this game for the Patriots, just showing how legit you are and just implications for playoff seeding, this game is huge. So that is my thing when it comes and my thought process when it pertains to the New England Patriots. Now, let's talk about another team on the other side of the ball. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a team who had a lot of noise going on with it just a couple of weeks ago. Before, they played the game against the Lions on Monday Night Football when you had the Mike Evans injury and Bucky Irvin's been hurt and things of that nature. Baker Mayfield didn't have a good game. You haven't really heard anything from the Buccaneers the last couple of weeks. Now, yes, they had a bye week the week before. This past week, they played the Saints, so it was a snooze fest. Wait, no, they didn't play the Saints. Who did they play last week? Or did they play the Saints the week before and they had a bye week this past week? I may have got it backwards. Yeah, they played the Saints just this past week, I think. I may be wrong. I'm looking up the game now. They don't have the date on it. I don't know why. Make sure I'm right. No, they had a bye week last week. So they played, because the New Orleans just played the Rams this past week. I thought I was right. Okay. So yeah. You're coming off a bye and you're super fresh. You're at home. And let's try and get the Baker and the Bucs hype back. Like, we're talking about the Buccaneers were in the conversation of being one of the best teams in the NFC, winning the division, things of that nature. Now, that's true. I still think they're going to win the division. I had a little bit of faith in the Falcons. They fell off the rocker. They're 3-5. Carolina's looking pretty decent, so they're 5-4. And you're the Buccaneers. You're 6-2. So let's get the MVP Baker show going again. Let's get those conversations back going, and let's get back into the MVP conversations. Let's get back into Super Bowl contender conversations, because even around the media everywhere, when it comes from all the big shows on ESPN and Fox, I have heard relatively nothing about the Buccaneers for the last 3 weeks. Like, ever since that game against the Detroit Lions, it just feels like everything's just nosedived. Let's not forget, this Buccaneers team is very good. They've had a lot of injuries. Bucky Irvin, he's been hurt. He's still not available. Chris Godwin, he's hurt. Mike Evans, he's out for the rest of the year. They are injury plagued right now. Mbuka, it seems like he's healthy. But in this game, this is going to be the story for me. Can the O-line protect Baker Mayfield? That was the biggest problem against Detroit. Obviously, against the Saints, they're terrible. But this Patriots defense, they have a team. They have a squad defensively. They can get to the quarterback. They can play complementary football. So this is going to be a great test for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're at home, you're coming off the bye. And the Patriots have one of the best run defenses in the NFL. This is why this game is very interesting, because I think Baker and the Bucs have always been at their best when they're able to run the football. You have no Bucky Irvin, and you're facing the number one rush defense in the league. So there, you're going to have to drop back to pass. That's why I kept saying, can the O-line protect Baker Mayfield? Because when Baker Mayfield, he's got guts and he's got glory. But when you get to him, Baker Mayfield's needed to bye, because he's been limping off the field a lot lately. So that bye was huge. But my thing with the Buccaneers has been all year, can they get through the season without injuries? They are literally in the same conversation with the 49ers when it pertains to just injuries. Like, they cannot go a game without somebody getting hurt. And then Baker Mayfield has been one of those individuals. There's plenty of games where Baker Mayfield is literally want to limp off the field. So that is something to think about when discussing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's get the Baker Mayfield MVP chats going. Let's protect Baker. Let's be able to go out and throw darts to Mbuka, Tez Johnson, Sterling Shepard, and all those guys. And let's win the game. That is the implication. That is the matchup. I'm not going to say who I have winning, because we'll save that for the picks of the week. But I am very, very invested in this game. And I cannot wait to watch, because I think this has the capability to be one of the best games of the weekend. And I'm going to be tuned in. And I can't wait to give you guys my thoughts on that game on Monday. All right. Moving on to our next game. And it's going to be the last game. I was going to save Philadelphia for Monday. I got Monday's show. I'll talk about Philly and all that then. So, let's go ahead and move into our very next game. Give me 1 second to get everything set up here. All right. So, Chargers Steelers. If you are unaware, I have been keeping close tabs. I've been keeping close tabs on the Chargers. They have been one of my favorite teams. Y'all know I love Jim Harbaugh. I'm a Jim Harbaugh apologist. Okay, I feel like the man can do no wrong. He's one of my favorite football coaches in the history of football. I just love Jim Harbaugh. I'm a Jim Harbaugh guy, and I love the Chargers. They went 3-0, and I was high on them. I was on a Los Angeles Chargers all-time high. But the Chargers had a lot of issues. And specifically for this game, how important is this game for the Chargers? It is very important. Because I do think that this game could possibly get ugly for Los Angeles. And I'm going to tell you why. If you're living under a rock, you know that Joe Alt is out for the rest of the year. He got hurt this past week with a high ankle injury, and he is out for the rest of the year. That shocked me. I've never seen a high ankle injury be season ending until this week when they announced it, that Joe Alt is out for the rest of the year. So your number 1 overall pick at the tackle position this draft, or last year's draft, is not available. Rashawn Slater, he was out earlier this year. He tore his ACL or Achilles, one of the two. I can't remember. I want to say it was ACL. He's not available. So Justin Herbert is going to be down both his tackles. And we know that the Chargers, in pass protection and running the ball, has been at their best when Joe Alt has been in the lineup. Now that he is out, when Joe Alt was out, that is when the Chargers went on their stint of losing games. And you're going to be up against a Steelers team with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Cam Hayward on the defensive line. I think this game could get ugly. You're going to be it'll be a road game. You're at home, but you're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their fan base travels very well. So this is definitely, no doubt in my mind, going to be a Steelers home game. So you're going to have crowd noise. You're going to have all that up against you. And this is a must win, an important game for the Chargers, because in their own division, I looked it up, they have the hardest remaining schedule. In comparison to the Broncos and the Chiefs, the Chargers' schedule is harder. And right now, you are second in your division. You're 6-3. People still think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. I don't foresee, unless something happens and something shocks me, I don't know if 3 teams are coming out of that division. I may have to do the math, but I really do not think that 3 teams are coming out of the AFC West. I think the Bucs and the Patriots, not the Bucs, I think the Bills and the Patriots are going to get in. So that's 2 teams there. And then you have the 3 teams that are going to win their other divisions. That's 5 teams. That's 2 spots left. I think one could go to one of the AFC West teams. I don't know where the other one is coming from. I don't know. It could be a Jaguars or anybody like that. So it is going to be tough for 3 teams to come out of the AFC West. It's doable. It could happen. But you got to think, from the top of my head, you got the Jaguars and the Colts. They're in the same division. That's the division. You have the AFC West. You have those 3 teams. You have the AFC East. And you got the AFC North. My mind's gone blank. Who is in the AFC North? Oh, yeah. The Baltimore Ravens and the Steelers. Jesus, we just got done talking about them. So, and the Ravens and the Steelers, they arguably can have a playoff spot too. Those 2 might be coming out of the same division in the playoffs. So, and I think, honestly, now that I think about it, I think the only path for the Ravens to get in is if they win the division. I don't think they can get second in the division and go into playoffs. But still, if you're the Chargers, you got to win this game. It is an absolute must win because you got to be able to, you have the hardest schedule. You cannot let the Chiefs, the Grim Reaper, and everybody over there in Kansas City come back and rain on your parade. This is a good ball club. I like this team, but I just feel like this game could get ugly because of that Steelers pass rush. They still have Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson's. He's turned out to be pretty good this year when they thought he was no good. They're still not able to run the football that well. But this game, it could get ugly very quick for the Los Angeles Chargers. And in my opinion, I really do think this is a huge, and I mean huge, must win for the Chargers. Now, let's go from the Steelers' point of view. The Steelers have an opportunity to make a statement. They had a huge win against the Indianapolis Colts. And I mean a huge win. That defense, a.k.a. the Steel Curtain, finally showed up against a offense, and this was at home, but still. I didn't give the Steelers a fighting chance in the game last week. I know I didn't do my picks of the week, but if I were to do my picks of the week, I didn't have the Steelers winning that game. Absolutely not. But that defense showed up. Can that continue to happen in this game? It's the perfect opportunity. TJ Smith, TJ Watt, and Alex Highsmith has the opportunity to absolutely tee off on that offensive line of the Chargers. Now, I know the Chargers made a trade for the offensive line in the trade deadline. I don't care. Whoever the guy was, I can't remember his name from the top of my head. He is not Rashawn Slater nor Joe Alt. Not in the same Earth universe. So they have an opportunity to wreak havoc on Justin Herbert. And it's going to be a home game, like I said. It's going to be a Steelers home game. They travel. And we know the Chargers rarely do have home games anyways. Their fan base is not that big. We are talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be the terrible towels will be everywhere in that stadium. Everywhere. So offensively, can we play big? Can we continue to run that 3 tight end offense and be super efficient? Can we play classic Steelers football? Can we be super physical on the defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball? Can we run the ball past the DK Metcalf? Run that 3 tight end set? Can you match the physicality of the Chargers? The Chargers are a super physical team because of the culture that Jim Harbaugh has set. When you watch the Chargers, they're tough. They play physical. And they get active, specifically on that defensive side of the ball when it comes to physicality. The Steelers are older. They're a lot slower. They're nowhere near as young as that Chargers defensive unit. Even the Chargers on both sides of the ball. And just the Chargers team overall. But can the Steelers, an old Pittsburgh Steelers team, can they match the intensity of the Los Angeles Chargers and lean into that identity going forward in the season? That is something that is going to be interesting to see in this game. I'm going to save my pick for the picks of the week coming up next soon. Not next, because we got one more topic that came out today, roughly, that we're going to discuss. But that is something that that we might wait and see in my picks of the week. Who am I going to pick? We're just going to have to wait and see. So an exciting matchup on Sunday Night Football, and I cannot wait to see it. It's all of America is going to be able to see it, and it's going to tell me if the Steelers are for real, and if the Chargers, the season might be waning on them early. We're just going to have to wait and see all those type of details on Sunday Night Football. So that is it when it comes to previewing the upcoming games of the season. Not upcoming games of the season, but upcoming games for this coming up week. Now, before we get into my picks of the week, I got one more topic that I want to discuss that roughly came out today. And I wanted to go ahead and just talk about it since it came out. Had to prep the show today. So I was like, hey, might as well just go ahead and throw it in there. Jayden Daniels, as of today, has not been put on IR. Per Ian Rappaport. Sources say quarterback Jayden Daniels' MRI and medical opinions revealed positive news, as his dislocated left elbow is not as serious as originally anticipated. There's no ligament damage and he won't need surgery. Daniels will not be immediately placed on injured reserve. Ian Rappaport continues, this was a lengthy and complicated process, including multiple opinions, with Jayden Daniels speaking with some of the nation's best experts. And the result was as positive as can be. Daniels will be reevaluated during the bye week, and multiple factors are at play, but good news all around. Now that we got positive news about Jayden Daniels, we were all scared. Jayden Daniels is hurt. The injury didn't look good. The stuff with everybody comparing him to RG3 when it just pertains to, Washington can't have good things when it comes to quarterbacks. But now that we got good news, I wanted to discuss this type of thinking when it comes to Jayden Daniels. Should the Commanders force Jayden Daniels to change his style of play? I think it might be time. You have to change his play style. Over the bye week, you have to invent an efficiency plan for Jayden Daniels' career. I took the liberty to go back and look over Jayden Daniels' injury history. They said he was injury prone in college. I never truly knew what that meant, and I went back to go see. 2019, Jayden Daniels had a knee and ankle injury. 2022, Jayden Daniels had another ankle injury. 2023, he had a concussion when he was at LSU. Last year, he had a rib injury. This year, knee, hamstring, dislocated elbow. That in a span of, 19, 22, 23, 24, 25. In a 5-year span, he had 2 knee injuries, 2 ankle injuries, a hamstring injury, a dislocated elbow, and a concussion. Jayden Daniels has single-handedly pretty much hurt every single limb in his body almost. There's not much left. He's not had a, he's hurt his elbow. He hasn't had a back, no quad, no pec, no trap. But outside of that, he's hurt every other thing that you could think of. And the most important stuff that you need when it comes to playing football, your elbow, knee, hamstring, and ankles. Those are very important. So he's already hurt those. And I know it is something that you might not want to do, but I would really entertain it. Jayden Daniels has a very frail frame. He's not even got the same body type as Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts. And if I am the Commanders, I didn't even write this down. I'll chunk it in for free because I just brought his name up. I'm going and looking at a lot of Jalen Hurts' tape. I know y'all already do it because they're in your own division. But go look at Jalen Hurts' tape and see how he's able to protect himself. We're talking about Jalen Hurts. He squats 600 pounds. No, nothing against Jayden Daniels, but I promise you, Jayden Daniels is not coming nowhere near 600 pounds. It would shock me if Jayden Daniels were able to squat 350 pounds. I'm going to be totally honest with you. That's how small he is. And he's a small guy. And Jalen Hurts does not take shots that Jayden Daniels takes. Jalen Hurts, when he's rushing out of the pocket, he is sliding every single time. I rarely see Jalen Hurts take contact in the middle of the field. I never see it. And we're talking about a guy in Jalen Hurts who has been to 2 Super Bowls, won 1. And he's in the conversation right now to be in the run for another one. They won that in Washington. But with Jayden Daniels' play style, that is not going to be possible. Because he can't stay on the field because he's taking and continues to take unnecessary hits on the football field. So you can take Jayden Daniels' rushing ability unless you find a way to make it more efficient. If you can make him slide more and find a way to keep him safe while being able to keep his running ability, go ahead and take the rushing and throw it in the trash can for the betterment of Jayden Daniels and for the betterment of the Washington Commanders organization and their fan base. This guy, Jayden Daniels, is a great quarterback. He took you to an NFC Championship game in his first year. Played pretty decent in it as well. He didn't play horrible. He didn't play great, but he was okay. You expect that out of a rookie in the NFC Championship game on the road in Philly. That's a tough environment as any to play in. He did that for you as a franchise and organization. So you want to do anything, and I mean absolutely anything, to keep him on the field. The quarterback position is too important. Even this offseason, I would possibly encourage Jayden Daniels to put some weight on. I know that probably is not in the best interest because Lamar Jackson did the same thing, and it kind of felt like Lamar's play was a bit off because of it. But I don't even know. Let's see how much Jayden Daniels weighs. Now, this might be a little fudged because who knows the exact weight of Jayden Daniels. Only the Commanders know. But let's look at Jayden Daniels' weight. Jayden Daniels is 210 pounds. That is really small. Lamar Jackson's weight and height. Lamar Jackson is only 205 pounds, but Lamar is 6 feet 2 inches. So technically, Jayden Daniels weighs more than Lamar Jackson. But Jayden Daniels is 6'4". So there's a big difference there. And the thing with Lamar, too, is Lamar Jackson really doesn't take shots like he used to. He kind of slides, too. Now, he does get tackled in the middle of the field sometimes, but you can just look at it. Lamar and Jayden Daniels, you can just look at them and tell just two different body types. Jayden Daniels looks way more frail and slimmer than Lamar Jackson. His running ability is super important. It is a component of Jayden Daniels' game that just transcends him and puts him in another conversation outside of anybody else. When nothing is open down the field, Jayden Daniels can absolutely kill you with his legs. He done it at LSU. He done it last year, and he done it some this year. But this year, he got his elbow dislocated. So if you are the Washington Commanders, if you're the head coach, everybody involved in the organization, I don't know, everybody's the owner, everyone, Josh Harris. Our best success is when this guy, Jayden Daniels, is on the field. So we should do whatever we can in our power to be able to get this guy and keep this guy on the field. And we do that by making him slide and having him available. Good news for Jayden Daniels. It's great to hear that he has been able to come back at some point this year. So it's a breath of fresh air for the organization. And hopefully Dan Quinn and everybody can wake up and be like, it's time to let's protect yourself, Jayden Daniels. I told you guys, action-packed show. A lot going on. I figured out a way to get on my lower thirds and stuff into where I can talk about multiple topics. So get used to it. We're going to be seeing a lot more of this in the future. Now, before we end today's show off, y'all know what time it is. It is time for my picks of the week. Now I had the schedule out on my tablet here, but I'm sitting here thinking y'all got to be able to see what I'm looking at. So let me go ahead, change this right quick. Now we're prepped and ready to go. Let's get it. So today, week 10. I don't have a nice little graphic or none or video to put on my picks of the week like Colin Cowherd does for Blazing 5 or Nick's picks or things of that nature. But we're just going to go at it, okay? Here's my graphic. Nice, simple, and creative at home. I don't have the nice, transition and VOD to put on here. Jay's Week 10 Picks of the Week, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and get right to it. All right. Again, I don't ever plan this. It's fun and interactive for me just to do it on the fly, okay? This is going to be fun. We're going to enjoy it. Never do Thursday Night Football. We're going to go ahead and get to the first matchup. The Atlanta Falcons versus the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts are favored -6.5 on ESPN Bet. I am, and this is a neutral site game. So, you're not playing in Indy. We're going to Berlin. Roughly, the Colts are traveling today, so that's a good sign. So maybe they took the Rams philosophy of waiting and going and traveling late. So, they lost last week. It's a big line, but go ahead and give me the Indianapolis Colts -6.5. I have Danny Dimes, Indiana Jones, whatever you want to call them. I have them bouncing back. Jonathan Taylor and the whole crew, the whole bit. Shane Steichen. You just got Sauce Gardner in the trade. He's going to be well. He's going to lock up Drake London. I think so, even though I think Drake London's a dog. He's not getting locked up by anybody. But I have them playing well and getting the dub. So give me the Colts -6.5. Chicago, New York. They are saying, I just got done watching Cowherd before I started the show. They're saying the weather is going to be absolutely abysmal, wet, windy, and wild. That favors the Chicago Bears for me. They run the ball better than the New York Giants. The Giants and Jackson Dart, they're really only super efficient if they're able to drop back and pass and use Jackson Dart's legs. So I think this favors, I really do think this favors Chicago, and Chicago is at home. The only reason why I'm going to take Chicago -4.5. Now, if I was a betting man, which I'm not a betting man, I would not bet this game. But I'm picking who I'm picking to win. So give me Chicago -4.5. Yo, I'm running out of breath. I've been talking for an hour and a half. I'm out of breath. Let's take a minute. Okay. Buffalo, Miami. Buffalo is favored -8.5 at Miami. Give me the Buffalo Bills. I just need to make this short and sweet. Tua, Miami, absolute garbage. I don't care if they're coming off of a mini bye week. I do not care. Tua Tagovailoa, Mike McDaniel, absolute trash fest going on in Miami. Give me the Buffalo Bills. Baltimore, Minnesota. I'm going to wait and save that game for later. I'm going to wait and save them and New England. I'll save all those games last since we talked about them. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game. We got Cleveland, New York. Cleveland is favored -2.5. I am going to take Cleveland coming off of a bye week. The only reason why, at some point, I know we ain't talked about Cleveland. I think they should give Shedeur a look. Dylan Gabriel has not blown anyone's socks off so far playing. I'm seeing so many clips week in and week out of Cleveland ESPN radio absolutely grilling the head coach and everyone involved with the quarterback situation. Kevin Stefanski, God bless him. And it might be Shedeur Sanders' time soon. So that's the reason why I'm going to take Cleveland. They're coming off of a bye week. And New York, they're coming off of a week where they traded everyone away. Garrett Wilson should be back this week. They're saying he is, but 2.5, definitely. If Cleveland was, if the line was 4.5, 5.5, I might would lean New York. But 2.5, relatively small, so definitely field goal, good enough to win the game. Give me the Cleveland Browns -2.5. Right now, I'm going with the favorites so far. I'm not picking no dogs. Maybe that can change. Carolina, New Orleans. This game is at Carolina. Carolina is favored -5.5. That is a big, big spread. I don't care. This is a division game. These division games are normally close. The Saints have not looked terribly bad. They're bad, but they've been bad because of the quarterback position. My nose is itching. Excuse me. But give me. This is a good one. But you know what? Just because they're at home, give me Carolina. Carolina has been super dominant at home outside of the game against the Buffalo Bills 2 weeks ago, where they got their doors blown off. But give me the Panthers. I have them winning by at least a touchdown. I just think New Orleans, that quarterback, they're going to go with Shuck. The Panthers were able to have success against the Packers and Jordan Love. They can definitely have success against Tyler Shuck at home. That is the reason why I'm going with Carolina. Give me the Carolina Panthers, man. Give me some dogs. I want to start rooting for some dogs. Here we go. Jacksonville at Houston. Jacksonville is favored -1.5 on the road. God, why do I keep... I want to lean Jacksonville here because CJ Stroud is not playing. And the Jaguars really need this game because they are in the fight for a playoff spot. And if they do not win this game, the playoffs can get dwindling away from them. And plus, I am a Trevor Lawrence apologist. I just continue to want to believe in Trevor Lawrence. I can't quite do it, but for a part of me just wants to continue to believe in Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. They picked up a big win against the Raiders. I don't know how much I trust Davis Mills. Let me see. Who was it that the Texans played this past week, and even when CJ Stroud went out, they were able to still be competitive with Davis Mills? It was the Broncos. I can't put too much weight into that because the Broncos are just absolutely so inconsistent. And they only scored 15 points. I'm going to take Jacksonville minus 1.5. I just think Jacksonville will score more points. I don't know how well Davis Mills is going to be at quarterback. I just cannot bet on Davis Mills. Give me the Jacksonville minus 1.5. God, it is killing me. I keep picking the favorites. Oh, man. Seattle, Arizona. Seattle is favored minus 6.5 at Seattle. I got to go with Seattle. I don't see a situation where Arizona wins. Seattle is just on an absolute heater right now. They just acquired Rashid Shaheed. They're at home. If they were on the road, maybe I would go with the Cardinals. But the last time they played Arizona earlier this year, the score didn't indicate how carried away that game got for Seattle. They're at home. I just see Seattle winning this game by at least 10 points. So give me Seattle minus 6.5. Gosh, I do not like picking the favorites. I want to pick some dogs. San Francisco, Los Angeles. Los Angeles is favored minus 4.5. Give me the Rams. Give me the Rams. You know what? They're at San Francisco. Either way, it's still a home game for San Francisco. It was a home game earlier in the year when they played on Thursday Night Football. I just think the injuries for the 49ers, they're just Mikael Williams last week tore his ACL. I don't know. I don't foresee a way that San Francisco just comes out with a win. And plus the idea that they beat the Rams earlier, the Rams are going to have that want to play well. They don't have the travel. They played at home last week, so it's not like they're having to go on the road. They're right there near California, not a long road trip. And Los Angeles just looks good. Give me the Rams minus 4.5. Washington, Detroit. That is a absolutely big line. 7.5 at Washington. That is a huge line. I don't love that line. I kind of want to stay away from 7.5. But Washington without Jayden Daniels is not going to be good. They weren't good with Jayden Daniels. The Lions are going to have an extra chip on their shoulder because they got embarrassed by J.J. McCarthy at home. So they're going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder. They're going to have intrinsic motivation, external motivation to get ready to play great football. Give me Detroit minus 7.5. Jeez Louise. All right, now let's go back. Let's circle back. This is where I finally go with a dog. Okay, New England at Tampa. I like New England. Tampa's favored minus 2.5. Give me the New England Patriots plus 2.5. I'm going ahead. I don't want to do it. I don't even like cheering for the Patriots, but I'm hopping on the Drake May bandwagon. That sucks to say. I don't like Carolina. I am a Duke guy, but I got to be honest. I kind of enjoy watching Drake May play. I like Mike Vrabel. I like what they have. I'm an Ohio State guy, so Travion Henderson, he gets a chance to be in the lineup this week. Ramondre Stevenson is out. God, my nose is itching. Jesus. But Drake May and them have a chance to put a statement on it, and I wanted to cheer for that. So give me the New England Patriots plus 2.5. Baltimore at Minnesota. Baltimore is favored -4.5. Y'all ready for this? Y'all ready for this? This game is going to be close. Minnesota has been depleted without quarterback play. There's a couple of games, specifically against like the Eagles. If the Vikings had good quarterback play, they'd have won. For some reason, I want to take Minnesota. My mind is saying take the Ravens because the Ravens are coming off of a mini bye, on the road, but they got to go back on the road again. You got to go against Minnesota. That fan base and everybody. I like Minnesota more as a team. And I kind of am I'm a somewhat of a JJ apologist too. Y'all know when it comes to JJ, I think JJ can be good. But he's just wildly inconsistent like Bo Nix. So, with that being said, and plus I've not been able to pick underdogs. At home, give me the Minnesota Vikings +4.5. Smash it down. Now, if I was actually betting this, I probably wouldn't do that. I'd actually stay away from this game. But since I'm not a betting man and I'm giving you my picks, I'm going to go with the Vikings +4.5. We will save Philadelphia and Green Bay for Monday. Let's go ahead and get to our final game. Los Angeles at Pittsburgh. Los Angeles is favored -2.5. So, this is a big game. I said it earlier. The game could get ugly because I don't like the idea of Los Angeles without Joe Alt for the rest of the season. With that being said, it's going to be a Steelers home game. I like the Steelers here +2.5. It wouldn't shock me if the Chargers win, but if the Steelers can do what they did last week against the Colts, they can do it against the Chargers. Because I don't think the offenses are in the same stratosphere. I think the Colts are a better offense than the Chargers because of the Jonathan Taylor dynamic and just the idea of not having Joe Alt. And plus another thing too, now if the Chargers can find success running the football, they can win this game. But if Justin Herbert has to drop back and pass, it is a recipe for disaster. And I just think that in the end, it's going to be a close game. I think Pittsburgh might pull away with a W. My heart says I want to choose the Chargers because I love Jim Harbaugh. I love Justin Herbert. Just part of me coming off of a big win. I just think the Steelers, just because of their defense. I'm betting on the defense because I just think they're too talented on that side of the ball not to be good. But I just think the Steelers end up getting the job done in a short, close game. Give me the Steelers +2.5. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Today's show was absolutely long. We capped it off at 1.5 hours. Great show. I had a lot of fun. That was an action-packed one. We got through 7 topics. That was a lot. This show took me roughly 7 hours to plan. 7 hours. So I put a lot of time and effort. I hope you guys enjoyed. I enjoyed, and I hope you did as well. Hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the football. I will have my clips reposted as always for anyone who missed it and want to listen to the topics that we discussed today. I will have them up on repost on YouTube, and I will try this weekend to get my podcast up to date on Spotify and Apple. I'm like 20 episodes behind. Super behind. So I'm going to do that. I got to do that. There's a lot of other things I need to do as well. I haven't made any shorts, but there's a lot of stuff I got to do. But I'm going to take a break till Monday. I love you all so much. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football. Got some great college games going on as well. Hope you all enjoy, and I will see you on Monday. Like, subscribe, and I will check you guys out on the next pod. I love you all. Have a great weekend. Peace, love, and positivity always, y'all. See you.